The Joe Rogan Experience
shows a different kind of thing.
Yes.
How many different kinds of things are you aware of?
Well, those are ours. Two, if you look at the
gimbal.
Go Fast, it kind of looks like a Tic Tac. So you could say those two are the same. You know, I think there's other stuff out there. You know, and sometimes it's not that you got to look at where do you obtain the video. It's just like intelligence, you know. And I'll use, because I know you got that picture of Pablo out there, you know. And there was the guy, Tom Cruise made the movie about him. What's his name? Louisiana dude who was flying the drugs for Pablo in and out.
Barry Seal.
Barry Seal. You know, hey, it was all great until Rogan posted that picture that they had the cameras inside the cargo plane, and then Pablo puts it together. The only place that picture came from is Barry Seal's airplane, you know, and then now Barry Seal's a dead man. So you got to watch when you release, because you go, hey, we got this video, but it was taken someplace we probably weren't supposed to be. Or how did they get that video?
Right.
Like, I'll look, the video of the Tic Tac video, that thing first came out. It's kind of funny. The guy that was in my back seat had sent me an email, and this is about probably 2008, so I was retired. And he sent me this video. I say, Skippers, this look familiar? And it was on strangeland.com, when not suitable for work. I'll just say that. But I look, and then next thing you know, it's on YouTube. So when I would tell this story to my friends, I'd send them the link to the YouTube video. And this is years before the New York Times article. And then when they did the unofficial official report, the video was taken down off of YouTube. And, you know, it kind of puzzled me, like, why'd you take the video down? And I told the guys when they did the unofficial official report, I said, what you really need to look at is how did this thing come off of a classified drive system on an aircraft carrier and end up on strangeland.com and YouTube? Because at the time, the videos were classified secret. And that's not because it was a UFO. It's the AT FLIR video. They did not want that released. So you'd see it on CNN. They blocked out all the performance stuff of what the airplane was actually doing. In this case, you know, the one you see, it's 250 knots with the autopilot on, so it's not that big of a deal. But, you know.
Jeremy, how many types of vehicles are you aware of that have been reported?
Credible reports for decades, hundreds of different shapes. Even Lazar himself said he saw, 9 different styles, all working off the same propulsion system. The Tic Tac shaped, vehicle, that goes back in history. Some people say cigar shaped, big ships, small ships. They're all different kinds. I think it's important to state, though, there are other government-funded UFO programs. It's a misnomer, actually, that ATIP was the recipient of the $22 million. It was actually Harry Reid created a program called OSAP. OSAP was the sole beneficiary of that $22 million. New York Times got it wrong. And then what happened is ATIP was a different funded program to study military encounters with UFOs. OSAP was created because of Skinwalker Ranch, a government program to study UFOs and associated phenomenon. ATIP and OSAP communicated and shared information, but they were independently funded. So the $22 million was for OSAP, and then ATIP had its own sources, and then they did collaborate. 2 UFO programs. There are more that I think we're going to learn about.
So the different shapes that Bob Lazar saw, there was 9 different shapes that he saw
Yeah,
at the
saw
hangars.
9. Only one up close, yeah.
And none of them were like the Tic Tac.
Not specifically. However, that's not an uncommon, if you go back in history of like military sightings of craft going maybe 1,000 miles an hour, the Tic Tac is a shape. They have triangles. They have ones that look like rectangles. The thing that is common with all of them is the non-reactionary propulsion system. I think even Commander Fravor said the thing noticed him, was words he first said to me, and kind of went towards him with its nose. But it could move in any direction, right? I mean, it could just move at will, however
Yeah,
it wanted.
when we first saw it, it was just basically, it never turned. It was just going left, right, kind of doing this.
Shape
like
probably
this pen.
doesn't matter.
And then it became aware because it turned and it actually mirrored what I was doing. When I was coming down, it came up and, so it was obviously knew we were there. And I don't know if it was picking up, energy coming off the airplane or what. I do know that when they tried to lock it, it actively, it jammed a radar, made it pretty much useless. And, Chad was pretty good about kicking it over and grabbing that video. So it's pretty wild.
It's a big deal to actively jam our radars,
Yeah. It's, whenever someone tells you an awesome story, it's great to hear. But, God, I wish I saw it myself.
Yeah,
it's
but
like
you
this
got
thing. It's like,
yeah.
You're telling me, and I'm like, wow, I'm listening. I'm trying to imagine. I'm putting it in my head. I'm visualizing it. But damn, I wish I could see it.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
And if you're one of those people like me who, I've always loved the idea of UFOs, I became extremely weary talking to people who are UFO believers and UFO fanatics because there's so many of them that are full of shit. And not just full of shit, they're childishly delirious. Like the way they talk about things. I mean, there's so many people that I'm in contact. They reach me in the night and they explain to me what we're doing to the ocean is wrong. And you're like, okay.
This is one of the reasons I want to do the show.
I'm sure.
Well, it's no joke. We've had people literally camp out on our front lawn and, in some ways I can relate to some of these people. Maybe some of them did really have some kind of experience or saw something and all their friends think they're crazy. But hey, now there's this guy I heard on the radio and at least he knows I'm not full of shit. So I got to talk to him.
Right.
And so most of the correspondence I get are people trying to get a hold of me going, Bob, you got to listen to me. I'm coming to talk to you. I'm driving from Oklahoma or whatever. But some of them are just fucking batshit crazy and they're frightening.
There's schizophrenics that are involved in the conspiracy world. So there's a lot of people that have real issues.
Joe, it would be a disservice to your audience to not say that we have to look at what's going on now and understand. I've heard on your show a bunch of stuff about what's going on now, and to not really understand what's going on now, you can't see Bob's story in the correct light after 30 years. And at some point we should just touch upon that. The biggest being that things like the Tic Tac UFO case that came out, I've heard people even on the show say, oh, there's a glitch in the radar. That's a data poor perspective. You just don't know yet what's really going on. Commander Fravor, I was able to get the interview with him to talk with him way before it became public. I got that from him. He saw it. Other pilots saw it. This is a big thing that's going on right now. They had more sightings on the East Coast recently, cubes with spherical ores. These are not aerodynamic, and these are the people we trust to defend us on 9/11. Commander Fravor protected Los Angeles on 9/11. So we trust them, but they're not trained observers. Radar, individuals see these things, and the big one, just to throw down so we can consider a story a little differently, there's more depth to it. The big one is the United States government has admitted that they have been continuously studying the UFO phenomenon. That program was called ATIP, was called OSAP. That's the mother program. George Knapp got that out. They announced through the New York Times about ATIP, but OSAP, these acronyms, OSAP, Advanced Aerospace Weapon Systems Applications Program. Who cares? That was the mother program. So they've admitted we didn't stop studying UFOs in 1969 with Project Blue Book. We don't think it's crazy. We actually want to reverse engineer the technology. That's why on your other show, you said, what's this AAV thing? It's like they're making up another UFO name. Well, hold on. There's a reason. Because in the documents, the DIA documents that George Knapp released, that everybody said was fake till now they know is real, they call them AAVs, which is Advanced Aerospace Vehicles. People are getting the acronyms wrong. So the reason for the terminology change is so that we can mimic what we're reading in the DIA documents. People can look for that now. So they changed the names to get people away from UFO or UAP, even like Hillary Clinton said on air, right? So
What are you talking about? Hillary Clinton said.
Hillary Clinton informed the public on Jimmy Kimmel, oh, Jimmy, we don't call them UFOs anymore. We call them UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomenon. Right, so she kind of was giving. The Clintons are very into the UFO topic. Senator Reid, he's done a lot for the subject, the study of it. Right, so she informed the public so they could look for the right term. So these terms are important because the DIA in those documents, they've been calling them AAVs for quite some time now.
And they changed the name to anomalous.
No, that's kind of a misnomer.
No,
so they always mess around with things, but it's actually advanced.
Right, but when they're describing it in the news, they were calling it anomalous aerospace vehicles.
Totally, and that's cool. Also saying anomalous aerospace threats, AAT, right, because they want the sense of a threat.
Right.
So my point is, if people don't know this now and they think this stuff is fantasy, this part of it, that we're studying it, that we take it seriously, we're spending money on it, and that we're getting great data from visual pilots to radar. That's why we know it's aerospace. They dropped from 80,000 feet. But guess what? That's the top scope of the Spy-1 radar is 80,000 feet. So the radar system they were using, it was coming from above that. So my point is this. If you don't understand that this is happening, you're just behind the curve because you don't have the information because of the stigma that you're talking about. I saw you get totally upset with the UFO topic. I met you first when you were totally upset with the UFO topic. It's the people.
When
you're doing your
pull this microphone.
I'm sorry, man. When you're doing your show, the Joe Rogan Questions Everything, I could see how frustrating it is. Trust me, I have been frustrated to hell. Luckily, my mentor is George Knapp, and he's taught me the pitfalls as I went through it. My whole point in this rant right here is just that we have to now look at Bob's story, but knowing the facts, not someone saying it's a bird, it's a plane, it's a glitch. They're not. And so if you don't know that, you just don't have the information yet.
Well, not just that, in the facts as we know them in 2019, not in 1988.
Absolutely.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
Last time I saw you, I don't think the Pentagon had come out, because it was actually during the pandemic where the Pentagon came out. I don't think we talked about this last time, did we?
I don't think so.
Where they said they've recovered alien crafts. They said we have recovered crafts that are not from this world.
Exactly what they said.
Up, young
Pull
Jay.
that up. That exact quote from
It's a sketchy.
Pentagon.
It's a it's
Pentagon
actually
didn't say it. Yeah.
the guy from Vegas, the guy from Nevada. What is his name? Was he a senator from Nevada?
Harry
Reid.
Harry Reid.
Someone that
Yeah.
Former senator.
Pentagon former contractor was the one that said it. I
Oh,
believe
you're
is how
thinking
it
of
said it.
you're thinking of
on
he's
that.
got an aerospace business out there that was funded in part by taxpayer money. That it was a sort of a project of Harry Reid's in a sense. I'm struggling to remember the guy's name. I should remember it because we've talked about it.
Lear?
No. Aerospace buddy of Harry Reid's. Can we Google
Is that the Skinwalker Ranch guy?
No. This is this guy is. They've actually still got a business. He's still developing right now. I think what he's trying to do is develop portable living.
Yeah, that is a Skinwalker Ranch
operations.
guy.
That is right.
Yeah.
Okay. Sure.
That is the guy. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
The name's on the tip of my tongue.
I know. But if he's the one who said it, then it doesn't come from the government. They the ATIP, which is that Advanced Aeronautical Threat Identification Program.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think the most interesting thing that the government has come out and said is that yes, we did have an operation within the Pentagon, an office within the Pentagon. That was there to identify unidentified threats. Right. So we get something up in the air and we can't identify it. It's like the Tic Tac sightings by David Fravor. Yeah. And those guys. So
David Fravor, for anybody who's in this, please listen to him on the Lex Friedman podcast, because I had him on, but I had him on with Jeremy Corbell, who's the documentarian behind that Bob Lazar movie, and by himself, Fravor and Lex, they get deep into the technical specifications of their aircraft and why he believes that no known aircraft could have ever operated the way it is, and also how it was blocking their tracking devices, which is technically it's an act of war, but also it showed that it was aware of them.
yeah, he's very credible. I mean,
Yes.
he's extremely credible. He's a good guy. I've talked to him a handful of times. I've sat and reviewed the gun camera footage with him as he's walked through it. Very credible, right? So that was a perfect example of why they had set up ATIP right within the Pentagon. Apparently not funded anymore as an operating office.
Because they probably got some new shit to tell you about,
yeah,
because
exactly.
that one got out
Got
there.
to close it down.
That's in the New York Times
that's
already.
What you do.
That is what they do, right?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, or you reallocate it's all in the budgets, which is again kind of why we do this show for Science Channel called Black Files, because we're chasing the budgets.
finally,
right?
Jesus Christ,
I know.
we're
I
2
got
hours.
I got like 2 other promos I haven't even touched yet. So if I can help, people are thinking, wow, he's really slow this time. But yeah, if you follow the money, it's like an investigation, right? If not so much follow the money, but if you start pulling on those threads around budgets, or it's like with an investigation and asset tracing, getting bank records is absolutely key if you can legally get them during the course of an investigation. But with military operations, oftentimes those budgets for the most interesting projects and operational elements get buried into something else, right? That's just the way it works, right? And so that's where you
maintain
secrecy. But that's it's so it's an exercise, and we don't obviously with black files we don't identify anything that's currently classified because we'd all end up in the who's gal. But we're looking at some pretty interesting things, and it speaks to where programs are going currently, right? You look at some things in the recent past, and you say, okay, this is where this new development is heading.
And it's an interesting conversation too, because for people that don't like secrecy and they don't think we should have secrecy, for national security and for the development of things, like the stealth bomb or like a lot of other things that show that we have military superiority over our enemies, it's important to have secrecy.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You can't function as a secure and safe and lasting republic without it, right? There's just no way. Now, people will say, "Oh, we should have transparency around everything." No, you got to draw the line. You got to you want to not overdo it, right? So you want to.
That's where I was going to get to,
right? But
the overdo it part.
But you've got to have the ability to protect sources and methods. You've got to have a sort of a need to know policy around certain things, right, within national security concerns and the intelligence community. But yeah, again, it can be used as a weapon. You can overdo it. But
if you don't have security, you don't have the Manhattan Project.
Right. No, absolutely.
Yeah.
We don't. I mean,
you don't have many things. That
you think about
keep us safe.
You think about. China. Look at this. Now I'm deep into the show, and I'm just now bashing China for their theft of economic intelligence. But you look at the effort that they make in terms of stealing our intellectual property and research and development. Right? I mean, the idea that you don't protect your most critical information, whether it's operationally important or whether it's just again R&D for development of materials, and that speaks to the strength of your economy and. So yes, certain things have to be kept secret. But again, you can overclassify things, which tends to happen, right? You tend to just because you're trying to protect everything, right? So I'm just going to overclassify, and that also creates a problem then. So, trying to strike a balance, it's a human endeavor, so you never really get it right, I don't think. But
this is where people feel like the line when it comes to alien spacecrafts, and if the government knows and is aware of alien spacecrafts and alien technology, this is where the line of secrecy and being sworn to oath, where it crosses over into a need to know for the general public. Bob Lazar's story, the story about him working for S4. He was a physicist for Los Alamos Labs. That's been proven. He was on the employee list there. He also was listed in a newspaper article when he put a jet engine in a Honda. That he was a physicist at Los Alamos Labs, and he was a propulsion expert. Says he worked for Area S4, and says he was hired to back engineer UFOs, and says they never could figure out how these things worked, and that they were never going to because they really couldn't, because they were trying to keep everything secret. They couldn't share all this information with the general scientific community. And he's like, science doesn't work in these containment bubbles. You can't compartmentalize science and have only a few small propulsion experts sit around and try to figure this thing out, and then they fire and bring new guys in, and no one ever gets it.
Right, which is what is against. I mean, if I'm trying to pull information out of another nation, right? If I'm targeting intelligence from, they're developing some new ballistic missile system or whatever it is, propulsion system, then yes, I'm gonna play off of that desire on the part of engineers and scientists to have a collaborative community, right? And the Chinese do that very well, right? And particularly when they target Chinese Americans working here in the U.S. in potentially sensitive positions. This idea that we're all working together, and this is just what we should be doing. We've done. My company has done work trying to protect information for companies, pharmaceutical companies, is a good example, where the scientists, the engineers, the doctors, need that free flow in their mind. They got to have this free flow and this collaborating and this sharing of information. And meanwhile, you got the other side, where the bean counters and security personnel and all that, and they're going like, no, this is the lifeblood of our company. We can't risk losing this information, so we got to lock it down to the degree we can. Those two things don't necessarily coexist all that well together, but you got to try to find some medium. So, I think, there's the fact that the government came out and talked about ATIP, I thought it was a big step, right? That's a big deal for them, right? I mean, that they would discuss that. Do I think that they're hiding? Again, I don't take anything. I wouldn't take anything off the table, right? Frankly, because I don't know, right? So it would be stupid of me to say no. They definitely aren't holding on to some propulsion system that isn't of this world or whatever. If I don't know it, I can't say absolutely not. But
wouldn't you want to know though?
Oh, sure, yeah. But I mean, what do you do? I mean,
grease a few palms.
Is that it? Yeah.
Get in there.
Yeah.
I want to see it.
Yeah, I guess do that.
I'd let the go right now. Listen.
Yeah.
I'll say a lot of shit that's not true. Just get me to the UFOs. Show me the UFOs, and I'll lie.
Oh God! No, we're doing. It is.
It's not true.
Yeah,
I'm lying. Now, don't tell me.
No.
I'm lying. Because
Yeah.
if you tell me, I'm telling everybody.
He's telling everybody. Yeah,
They
know.
a lie.
Look, they know.
Sure, they know that.
They know that. They're writing it down right now. Whatever happens. But
it's too bad. Episodes of the Joe Rogan Experience are now free on Spotify. That's right. They're free. From September 1st to December 1st, they're going to be available everywhere. But after December 1st, they will only be available on Spotify, but they will be free. That includes the video. The video will also be there. It'll also be free. That's all we're asking. Just go download Spotify. Much love. Bye-bye. I got home from the Comedy Store at like 2, and then I watched some goofy... I've been on this UFO documentary kick.
Watching UFO documentaries?
Yeah, I told you it was David. I started talking about it.
Yeah, we were talking about that.
Yeah.
What were you? Did you have something specific that you saw recently?
Yeah,
the documentary.
2 of them. One of them is Area 51. Bob Lazar and Area 51 and flying saucers. It's a documentary on this guy who claimed that he worked on these alien ships in Area 51 in the 1980s.
That gave me chills.
As time's gone on, more of the things that he said have proven to actually be true.
Like what?
Including an element that he talked about, element 115, I think it was called.
Like an organism from space?
No, an element, like a man-created element, like this carbon.
Right.
There's an element that they created that he talked about way before it was ever publicized. And he talked about this thing, and then it turned out to be true. He talked about these, there's these hand monitors that you would put your hand on this thing, and these metal lines would detect the distances in the bones of your fingers, the exact distances, and everyone is different. It's like a signature thing. Mm-hmm. And that they could find out if it was you or not you that was trying to go through. So the way they would scan people, the bioscan, would literally measure the bones in their fingers. And people said that was horseshit.
Wild.
He talked about this in the 1980s. People said it was horseshit, but then later on turned out, no, they did have that in Los Alamos. They did have that in Area 51, and that this technology was very, very
advanced.
Very, not just very advanced, but very not. It was not well known at all. Like very few people did. And this guy who was creator of this documentary, it was very difficult for them to get photos of this hand scanner. But this hand scanner did exist and existed exactly as this guy described it.
In the 80s, I mean, that's super progressive for that time.
There's also
even
people
for now.
that did approve his top secret clearance to get to this place. They know that he actually worked there. There's people that worked in the same Los Alamos lab with him. They tried to say he never worked there, but his name's on the manifest. It's very strange. It's like they've tried to erase parts of this guy's past because he filmed a bunch of their crafts as they were flying around. Like he knew what days. This is the thing. That thing right there, you put your hand on that, and it actually measures the distance of the size and length of your bones.
That looks like something that's inside of an escape room in L.A.
It does. Hilarious. It's so true. But
Doesn't it?
Went into this documentary skeptical.
As you should.
Yeah, but I'm so done with all those things. But listen to this guy talk for a while. After a while, I was like, what if he's telling the truth? Like, what if he is actually telling the truth? Because if he's actually telling the truth, there is some part of the government that had access, at least in the 1980s, to alien technology.
I mean,
There
it
was
probably
spaceships.
is. There probably is to that. Crazier things have happened. And also, like, just your mentality of believing him is probably the same thing that made Dr. Malachi Lovejoy Robinson III become successful.
Con art?
Yeah. I mean, either there's validity of what he's saying in this documentary, which I can't wait to watch, or he's just really great at painting a picture. Some people are so good at convincing you
That's true.
of truths.
True.
There's, people with like borderline personality disorder and every sort of spectrum in between there. They become really good manipulators.
That is true. However, usually they do that in more than one avenue.
Absolutely.
And this guy's not doing that.
Yeah. So if
He's
it's just
really-
a documentary, then
Yeah, it hasn't varied his story. Like, I mean, he might have like changed the way he says things in terms of like the words he chooses, but the actual story is exactly the same as he was telling a long time ago.
is this a self-produced documentary, or
No.
is there a production
No,
involved?
production company
See, that's where
involved.
it's like, okay, there's probably some validity to this.
But this guy around for a long time. I remember reading about him and watching videos about him, 20 years ago.
I mean, don't you think you're somebody who you said you know, and I know this about you. You love space. You're obsessed with that. The idea of what we are in the solar system and beyond. Like, how impossible is it to think that there could be a creature that could breach our atmosphere with some advanced technology and be able to just sort of chill, scoot around, scoots, magoots, check us out, and fucking peace out back up to wherever they're from.
I don't think that's how they would do it, but yeah, I know what you're saying.
Exactly. They scoots,
Magoots.
Yeah, they just kind of cruise around. They're looking at us.
Well, he had an interesting
Little
analogy.
reconnaissance.
He said if you brought a atomic engine to these people that lived in the Victorian era and said, "Hey, this is a nuclear power plant. Like here, check this out." They would fuck with it. They'd wind up getting sick from radiation. They'd wind up dying. No one would understand what it was or how it worked. They would never figure it out.
Right.
He goes, why would we assume that this is only from that one time with this one device? Why wouldn't we assume that there'd be some other technology that maybe we'll create someday in the future? I'm paraphrasing him very poorly.
Yes, it's okay.
Or someone
You're a
else
scientist.
from another planet would create that we wouldn't understand at all. And he said, and that's what we were dealing with when we were trying to back engineer the propulsion systems that these things use. They use some gravity-based propulsion system. And it was something that would manipulate gravity in front of it. It's very, look, I'm too stupid to know the science of it. I don't know if he's like if you were
You're
a scientist.
You're supposed to know these things.
Not yet. I have to get my degree.
Joseph
I need
Rogan.
to get a degree so I can call myself a doctor. I just want to get an honorary one like Cosby had.
Why? It's gone. He doesn't have it. He doesn't have it anymore.
Back.
They
The
took that
honorary
shit
ones
back.
they could take back.
Yeah, take them back. He can't keep those.
Yeah.
He can't keep that.
Actually, I think he wrote an essay, and that's how they gave him his doctorate.
I
But that's
mean,
neither here nor there.
gross.
Probably got more than one doctorate.
I'm sure he did, and he didn't. He didn't deserve them. But I think, there's got
100%.
100%.
But I like to say there's not. It's like, stop.
You think
Stop
this is just
dwelling
it?
No, I don't think it is. But it is entirely possible. I use that phrase too often.
And it's entirely possible.
Yeah.
You got to get a
I gotta get
mashup
a
of
new
all
one.
of those.
Oh, see out there. Yeah, it's hilarious. It's like 50,000 of them.
That needs to be on a
It's
shirt.
possible that we're the most advanced. That's
It is a
possible
possibility.
too, because something has to be the most advanced.
Absolutely, and something has to be. We could also be on that part of the spectrum.
Sure.
Maybe we're the last to evolve.
It's 100% possible.
And
Like if there's an infinite number of life forms out there, like if there's an infinite number of planets and there's an infinite number of Earth-like planets that can have beings like us on it, who's to say that we're not the most advanced? Maybe they're all like people from the 1820s.
Yeah, they're
They haven't
still
caught up to us yet.
chiseling shit. They're still
Chiseled in the
stone and
1820s.
chisels. But I'm talking like old shit. They don't even have pens and papers yet.
Like the orangutan that was fishing with a spear.
There's just a bunch of advanced orangutans that are like, putting hieroglyphics in caves.
It's possible.
It is very possible.
It's totally possible.
Because we're just basing it off of our own experience and
Right.
perception of what we have been exposed to. No idea.
The other really interesting scenario is that they're time travelers.
Ooh.
Is
That's
that
really that's exciting to think
what
about.
they are is some being from the far distant future that understands that it could come back and observe us and see like where things went wrong, where things went right, but do so in a way that's as minimally intrusive as possible and occasionally interfere with
That's
things.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
Jerry, you're aware of this, the footage from the Mexican Air Force?
Yeah, very that.
What do you think about that?
Well, again, it's IR footage, which is really interesting. They actually got the cameras for drug runners, right? So you can see in the infrared, so it's beyond the observable, eye. I myself have not detailed looked at the footage. However, FLIR experts and people that work with NSA have looked at it for me, and these are not lights in the distance. These are craft, very similar to what Commander Fravor talks about, without plumes, without heat signatures, non-traditional field propulsion systems. We don't have that.
And I thought they tried to, is this it right here? Is this the Mexican Air Force footage?
Yeah. So they tried to say these were lights on like an oil rig out in the water. That's been debunked.
Yeah, they tried to say fire in an oil rig, right?
No.
The 2004
the
Comcast
pilots.
Video of the Year was the Mexican Air Force tracking like 6. So literally right after our incident, we come back, and I think we were getting ready to go to Fallon, and I had Comcast, and the home page comes up, and there's this video, and I go, holy cow, that looks like what we chased. And it was like 6 of these things, and they were tracking them in the same area too, right off the coast of Ensenada.
And it's not rare. There's now admitted an increased frequency. A Pentagon spokeswoman finally went off script. I was tracking the scripts for the last 2 years of what Pentagon spokespeople say about Commander Fravor's experience. Someone went off script last week in the New York Times, and she admitted there's an increased frequency of near misses because of these AAVs, anomalous aerospace vehicles. So it's pretty astounding. We're getting all these kind of revelatory moments in these little seeds that these are not ours. We don't have this. Even Elon doesn't have this. I mean, this is a propulsion system unlike anything we have. It's amazing. It's gravity propelled.
Now, that footage, when it said that there's a fleet of them, how far away are those guys where you don't see the individual objects, you only see a singular spot?
The pod is, when you get pretty narrow, it'd be like, if I put 3 people around you, I can look at you and not see the other people. So that's what the pod is doing. But the radar is seeing everything because it has an AESA radar in it, which is an active electronically scanned array. So instead of like the radars we had, which did the mechanical, doing this, like old school, this thing is just a panel that sits in the front of the airplane, and through beam sharing or beam shaping, it can move and it can look all over. So we used to have what was called track while scan, so we would be able to track a target while we're still scanning. This thing has it scans while it tracks. So it literally, if it sees you, if the radar sees you, it has basically a weapons quality solution. And it can do that on multiple targets. It's the same way the spy radar, the Aegis system works on the cruisers. It can track multiple targets and have weapons quality on all these different targets while it's still scanning a volume.
So in that image, you're one individual object, but there's other objects?
Yes. The radar is seeing the object that the pod is looking at where they're talking. And when you hear the video, you hear the pilot say, dude, look at the SA page. There's a whole fleet of them. So what they're seeing is the pod is looking at the main. That's the bigger object at the gimbal, the thing that's rotating on the screen. And there's 5 smaller things in front. So this thing's just sitting there. And then he said they turn around on the radar and start going the other way while the pod's looking at this guy just kind of rotating.
So like a mothership and smaller aircraft, something along those lines. Video of those smaller aircrafts, or just the video of the one large one?
The only thing is the targeting pod. I would highly doubt, even if they had the video, that they're going to release the radar video because of classification levels.
Are you able to tell the story you told me about what was underwater with your other buddy? Because is that okay?
Yeah. So it's amazing. People come out of the woodwork when they figure out you've had this, because now they don't feel alone. So I was working. I still do it, but I was doing oil and gas at the time on a contract, and one of the guys, the story came out, and he was a Navy helicopter pilot. And he comes in, he goes, dude, hey, can I talk to you, man? I go, what about? He goes, dude, I got to talk to you. And I said, what do you want to talk to me about? He says, dude, you know your UFO? He said, yeah. He goes, I had a similar experience. I said, what's that? He said, he was flying CH-53s, which is a big heavy lift that the Marine Corps uses, and the Navy uses it for certain things. And when they go for the East Coast, they do a lot of shooting off of, at the time, it was off of Puerto Rico. We had Roosevelt Roads that they ended up closing. But he was flying out of there. And, you got super clear Caribbean water. And they have these things, they're called BQMs. They fly around, and then when they're all done, because they'll fly towards the ships, and the ship they can track with the radar. And then they also do, like the ships or submarines shoot torpedoes, they're called telemetry rounds. So they gather all the data on what the torpedo is doing underwater. and then they blow ballast, and this thing will come to the surface and float, and then they go pick them up, and then they can extract all the data out of them. So they do it for both. So he said the first time they're out and they're going to pick up this BQM. And those things, when they're flying, they're done, a parachute comes out and they got to go, they hook it up. The helo drops the swimmer in the water. He goes and hooks this whole thing up, and then they hoist the whole thing up and fly back, and then they extract the data. So he says he's sitting in the front, in helicopters, there's, CH-53, you can actually see down by your feet, just like typical, like you go to Hawaii and ride, because you can see when you're touching down. So you got really good visibility out of those things, and you can stick your head out the window too, because you're just kind of hanging out. He says he's going on there, and they're getting this thing hooked up, and as he's looking down, because they're, 50 feet above the water, he sees kind of this dark mass coming up from the depths. And they start to hoist the diver up, and they've got the BQM, and as they hoist it up, he says, and he's looking at this thing going, what the hell is that? And then it just goes back down underwater. It just once they pull the kid and the BQM out of the water, this object descends back into the depths. So he thinks, well, that was pretty weird. So he goes out, he says, not too long later, a few months later, he's out and he's picking up a torpedo. So he says they hook the diver up on the winch and they're lowering him in, and as he's looking down, he sees this big, massive, he goes, it's not a submarine. He's seen submarines before. Once you see a submarine, you can't confuse it with something else. This big object, kind of circular, he says, is coming up from the depths, and he starts screaming through the intercom system to tell him to pull the diver up, and the diver's like a few feet from the water. So they reverse the winch, and the diver's thinking, what the hell's going on? And he's getting pulled up, and all of a sudden, he said the torpedo just got sucked down underwater, and the object just descended back down into the depths, and they never recovered the vessel.
Jesus.
And this happened in the late 90s. Mid to late 90s, I think it is. I could probably get in touch with him and ask him. And he told me this story, and I'm like,
how do you
come in and go, well, where'd the torpedo go? It just got sucked down. It just went down, and then you get the people that attribute it as, something happened when it blew ballast and it just took on water and sank. And he's like, it didn't sink. He goes, it literally looked like it got sucked down. The only reason they talked to him when they did the New York Times stuff, they talked to him, but because the incident was from the 90s, they wanted something, newer. So they did not include it, but I know they talked to him about it.
Now, what was the other footage that we were watching? There was the first footage that Jamie pulled up that wasn't the gimbal footage.
Mm-hmm.
That was
the Go Fast.
The Go Fast. What is that?
That's it actually looks more like a Tic Tac, but they saw it going across the water, and they're just grabbing a lock. So they're seeing this with their eyes, and he gets the FLIR to lock on it. And you hear the kid go, "Oh, I got it," because he gets the auto track, and it's just something screaming across the surface of the water. So,
and this is in the same area?
This is East Coast, yeah. This is the same time frame as the gimbal video.
So the ideas are birds, or the idea that this is a radar glitch, or somebody said pilot error, like on a clear blue day, Commander Fravor has nerves. I mean, that kind of thing that people have said on your show to you, that, these are explanations that make sense.
Who said that?
I don't want to say their names.
Mick West?
Yeah, sure.
Mick believes everything. Like, every single thing that's ever happened has a rational explanation for it.
So the probability that, all the radars went off at the wrong time, Commander Fravor, had nerves, that all the other pilots up there with him, that, this thing shot off like a gun instantly, like that was somehow perfectly coordinated. That's a conspiracy. That's a fabrication. Probably, Occam's razors, the events happened exactly like we're being told.
Yeah, for us, and I'll go back to the beginning of the story of, the other pilot who was brand new. She had been in the squadron for 4 months, 5 months. So she's pretty junior. She was still working on her initial qual on the airplane. And, so she gets we get the real world vector, and it's like, okay, real world vector, cool. I'm going to get to do something real, exciting. Then you see the water, and you think, oh, something's sinking, because it's kind of that shape of an airplane, that cross type. So now it's, oh crap, now it's search and rescue. We got to go down and see, because there's people, and we are sympathetic. And to the Tic Tac, and as soon as the Tic Tac, it's like, holy shit, what is that? And when you get, some people get very emotional when you talk about it, because for me it was like, for her, when you talk to her, she has a disdain for some of the leadership that didn't tell us that these things were out there. They're here now, we're getting vectored, because we were the first time the manned airplanes had been airborne when one of these things showed up. That no one even gave us a brief that, hey, we're seeing these objects out here for the last 2 weeks. They're just kind of, you might want to know they're out there. And they never told us. No one knew these things existed besides the radar operators. And the radar operators didn't know what they were. They just knew they were seeing blips. So and there's a lot of stuff that, that it flew around and it came around me, and it didn't do any of that stuff. It's the story that I gave you is just relatively benign, but it was, it's an interesting experience.
So the incidents that they reported were taking place before you saw that Tic Tac encounter.
Yeah,
they were taking place over a period of how many weeks?
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
We went out at the beginning of the month for this 2 week at sea period. We pulled in for Thanksgiving, but other than that, we were out till I think December 21st is when we pulled the ship back in. Besides pulling in for the 3 days at Thanksgiving. So yeah, for the 2 weeks prior, so this was on the 14th, and we went out at the beginning of the month. So about 2 weeks, they'd been watching these things come down, go up, come down, go up. But it was always when we were not flying, which is really probably like the midnight time frame until early in the morning the next, till noon the next day. And then we just happened to go. And if you think about it, I laugh at, if there was some little green man flying around in that Tic Tac, he probably got back to the mothership and got yelled at for being seen. But like, oh my God, you let them see you. So.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
There was no, to my knowledge, there hasn't been any correlation of that. And the creatures that are described in Socorro, in New Mexico, and in Valensole in France. So those are 3 cases that I've been very involved in from the beginning, from day one. Involve creatures that are about 3 feet tall, that breathe our air, recognize our signals, communicate with us in funny ways, even mentally. I mean, the witnesses describe getting images in their minds and so on, in all 3 cases. And what's interesting is, people can argue about Trinity all they want, like they argue about Roswell, but the case in Socorro and the case in France, in Valensole, were investigated by governments, not by the local UFO group, although the local UFO group did a good job in all those cases. But they were, in Socorro, it was first the local police, the local policemen saw the craft and the beings and described what happened. He was terrified, but, when the thing took off, he thought it was something to do with some new gadget or some work in the desert. It's an area that's still in the same state today. I've gone back there with Dr. Hynek's son, with Paul Hynek a few months ago. I've gone several times there. And so after the police, turned out the FBI was in town on another case. They had no jurisdiction in New Mexico for that particular case. It wasn't a federal case, but they helped preserve the traces, the FBI way. And the local police was happy to have them there. And then there was the state police came in and did an investigation, and then people from the base, came in with experts in explosives, experts in recovery of weapons and rockets and so on, because they thought it might be something that had come from the Trinity Range that was out of its way,
right,
and had crashed near Socorro,
right,
in which case they might have responsibility, including financial responsibility if something was destroyed or whatever. So this was very serious. I have the whole file. Okay, it's a big file.
Right.
Nobody's looking at it. I mean, the investigation in Washington now, they are saying, we're going to look at the cases of the last 12 months. Well, what kind of science is that? Can you imagine scientists reading this? And this is the way they are going to solve the UFO problem, by looking at vague pictures of lights in the sky for 1 year? Why don't they go back to those records? Those are federal records. Okay, the case in Valensole, 5 agencies of the French government. So this guy was a farmer. He had a field where he was growing plants to make perfume. So this was high level, expensive crop. This wasn't just, alfalfa or something. And he goes there at 5 o'clock in the morning because, he wants to do to water the thing and so on before the sun is up, because it's going to be it's in the south of France. It's going to be very hot. You can't work in the field during the early afternoon. So he wants to be done with that. He sees this contraption, in the middle of the field, crushing the plants. And so he sneaks in, and he's paralyzed. Okay. Now, there is an egg-shaped object, just like the one, at Trinity, just like the one in Socorro. It's the size of a mid-sized truck. There are two creatures in front of it, human looking, 2 eyes, breathing air. They look at him, sort of amused, and one of them has something on his belt. He takes out, pointed at him, and that's when he's paralyzed. Now, he's not, as you know, I'm not a doctor, but I've gone to doctors about what kind of paralysis is that, where you can stand up and watch something, you just can't move. They said, well, there is a type of paralysis that will just inhibit the motor, motor nerves, where but you'll still be up and aware. You're not going to fall down, in a heap. And from there, he sees them going back inside the thing. The thing takes off. It takes off like a shot out of a gun, and it vanishes in midair. Okay. Now, he goes to see the gendarmes. This man is fairly wealthy. He owns quite a bit of, several fields, expensive crops. His wife is the mayor of the town. The gendarmes are going to be very careful with him because he's also from the resistance in World War II. When he was young, he joined the resistance, and the resistance in that part of France fought in the Alps against the Germans, and they were regarded as heroes of World War II. And so the gendarmes are very careful with him. There are some things he's not going to tell the gendarmes because he thinks, and I went there, he didn't want to talk to anybody from Paris. He didn't want to be on TV. He wanted to concentrate on his experience because he thought there was going to be something else. And he was aware of some of his buddies. Now, this is a part of France where people talk, but they have secrets too. I mean, historically, there are things like that in the U.S., parts where people are not going to talk to strangers.
Right.
The only reason I could go there was that I went there with a lady who was from Paris, with the government. She was with de Gaulle's government. She had the rank of ambassador, and she had a vacation home there. So we went there for 3 days, and she knew everybody there. And he told us what he thought might happen again. And he didn't want the gendarmes mixed in with what he was doing.
Why did he think that something was going to happen again?
They evidently, and he swore us to secrecy about what it was, but evidently there was communication with the beings when he was there. Now,
so these beings, just tiny, look like people. Did they have different features than us?
Just like the ones at Trinity and like the ones at Socorro. So in that book you have actually 2, 2, and 3. You have 7 creatures that are humanoid, that breathe our air, that seem to understand us. The visual, there's visual contact. Well, we can have visual contact with animals. I mean, that doesn't mean they are human or meta-human, but there is messages that come through all of that that the witnesses are reluctant to talk about in all three cases. So in Socorro, finally, the Air Force went there. They threw the Air Force out because the Air Force said, well, that's just a gadget, and from the base. And, that was stupid. So they finally sent Dr. Hynek there. And Dr. Hynek asked me to organize the files that were coming. I was at Northwestern at the time, working. I had done my PhD already, and I was on the staff of the computing center. And we had a small team trying to help, free, trying to help Hynek keep the files together. So we were, in communication with him the whole time. And then I put the files together, and I have the file. This is the official file.
So people were reluctant to talk about what these creatures were communicating with them. But did they talk about it at all?
It was very personal.
Very personal.
Yeah. There had been a communication that transcended their life. There was something else, something outside. So you could almost call it a sort of a religious feeling, but it wasn't. It wasn't about divinity or God specifically, but it was about the other side of life, a bigger meaning for life. That's their interpretation. It may not be. There may be other things that they are trying to communicate,
but it was found for them.
Yes.
And all cases had similar stories in that regard.
And in all three cases, there are traces that were measured. There were, there is technology of sort. And in the case of Socorro, people came up with all kinds of ideas that maybe it was a balloon. A special balloon. Right?
Mm-hmm.
There were only 12 of them in the world and so on. Well, in the book, people haven't noticed it, but in the book, I was able to solve that problem because I found a transcript of a conversation with a man who was head of a motor pool at the on the Army range at White Sands. And he had given his team some instructions on, how to make sure that the motor pool was working really well because White Sands is so big. When people went home, they could get lost, at White Sands. And then how are you going to find them? I mean, there are tracks, but there is no paved road at the time. How are you going to, find them? So you can launch a helicopter the next day looking for, a lost car somewhere with a family in it. But so he made rules that they had to call periodically to report where they were when they went home, 50 miles away across the desert. So they could find them if there was something wrong with the car. He's driving home with his family. This is after the Socorro thing is done. They are all interrogating Lonnie Zamora, the cop who was driving that thing. And he sees a light over the mountains in the southwest towards Mexico. But it's still, it's still in New Mexico, but it's in that direction. A light that's not a star, it's really bright. And the light gets brighter and brighter, and his car dies. Now, he's head of a motor pool, for the base. Everybody reports to him, and they have all the army cars and the trucks and everything else, the half-tracks. So he looks at that thing. He tries to call his team. The radio doesn't work. The radio should work, Radio doesn't work. And the thing gets very bright, and then it recedes. It goes away the way it apparently came in. We don't know if it came in or if it just got bright. But, okay, the car starts. He goes home, and then the next day he goes to his shop. He gets his staff together. He says, "You guys are going to take this car apart. I want to see every screw and every piece of it and every level and everything and the seats and so on. I want to see all of that on the floor. And you're going to test it, and you're going to tell me what's changed or, if anything, how that car stopped in the middle of the desert." And they couldn't find anything. And that report was an official report, okay, that was never published. And it nails the whole thing, that this was not a balloon. This was not an hallucination. The patrolman wasn't drunk like they accused him of, or making up a story and so on.
The Joe Rogan Experience
shows a different kind of thing.
Yes.
How many different kinds of things are you aware of?
Well, those are ours. Two. If you look at the
gimbal.
Go Fast, it kind of looks like a Tic Tac. So you could say those two are the same. I think there's other stuff out there. And sometimes it's not that you got to look at where do you obtain the video. It's just like intelligence, and I'll use, because I know you got that picture of Pablo out there, and there was the guy, Tom Cruise made the movie about him. What's his name? Louisiana dude who was flying the drugs for Pablo in and out.
Barry Seal.
Barry Seal. Hey, it was all great until Reagan posted that picture that they had the cameras inside the cargo plane, and then Pablo puts it together. The only place that picture came from is Barry Seal's airplane, and then now Barry Seal's a dead man. So you got to watch when you release, because you go, hey, we got this video, but it was taken someplace we probably weren't supposed to be. Or how did they get that video?
Right.
Like, I'll look, the video of the Tic Tac video, that thing first came out. It's kind of funny. The guy that was in my back seat had sent me an email, and this is about probably 2008, so I was retired. And he sent me this video. He said, "Skippers, does this look familiar?" And it was on strangeland.com, and not suitable for work. I'll just say that. But I look, and then next thing you know, it's on YouTube. So when I would tell this story to my friends, I'd send them the link to the YouTube video. And this is years before the New York Times article. And then when they did the unofficial official report, the video was taken down off of YouTube. And, it kind of puzzled me, like, why'd you take the video down? And I told the guys when they did the unofficial official report, I said, what you really need to look at is how did this thing come off of a classified drive system on an aircraft carrier and end up on strangeland.com and YouTube? Because at the time, the videos were classified secret. And that's not because it was a UFO. It's the AT FLIR video. They did not want that released. So you'd see it on CNN. They blocked out all the performance stuff of what the airplane was actually doing. In this case, the one you see, it's 250 knots with the autopilot on, so it's not that big of a deal. But,
Jeremy, how many types of vehicles are you aware of that have been reported?
Credible reports for decades, hundreds of different shapes. Even Lazar himself said he saw, 9 different styles, all working off the same propulsion system. The Tic Tac shaped, vehicle, that goes back in history. Some people say cigar shaped, big ships, small ships. They're all different kinds. I think it's important to state, though, there are other government-funded UFO programs. It's a misnomer, actually, that ATIP was the recipient of the $22 million. It was actually Harry Reid created a program called OSAP. OSAP was the sole beneficiary of that $22 million. New York Times got it wrong. And then what happened is ATIP was a different funded program to study military encounters with UFOs. OSAP was created because of Skinwalker Ranch, a government program to study UFOs and associated phenomenon. ATIP and OSAP communicated and shared information, but they were independently funded. So the $22 million was for OSAP, and then ATIP had its own sources, and then they did collaborate. 2 UFO programs. There are more that I think we're going to learn about.
So the different shapes that Bob Lazar saw, there was 9 different shapes that he saw
Yeah,
in the
saw
hangars.
9. Only one up close, yeah.
And none of them were like the Tic Tac.
Not specifically, however, that's not an uncommon. If you go back in history of like military sightings of craft going like maybe 1,000 miles an hour, the Tic Tac is a shape. They have triangles. They have ones that look like rectangles. The thing that is common with all of them is the non-reactionary propulsion system. I think even Commander Fravor said the thing noticed him, was words he first said to me, and kind of went towards him with its nose. But it could move in any direction, right? I mean, it could just move at will, however
Yeah,
it
it was,
wanted.
when we first saw it, it was just basically, it never turned. It was just going left, right, kind of doing this.
Shape
like this
probably
pen.
doesn't matter.
And then it became aware because it turned and it actually mirrored what I was doing. When I was coming down, it came up, and so it was obviously knew we were there. And I don't know if it was picking up energy coming off the airplane or what. I do know that when they tried to lock it, it actively it jammed a radar, made it pretty much useless. And Chad was pretty good about kicking it over and grabbing that video. So it's pretty wild.
It's a big deal to actively jam a radars,
Yeah. It's, whenever someone tells you an awesome story, it's great to hear. But God, I wish I saw it myself.
Yeah,
it's
but
like
you
this
got
thing. It's like,
yeah.
You're telling me, and I'm like, wow. I'm listening. I'm trying to imagine. I'm putting it in my head. I'm visualizing it. But damn, I wish I could see it.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
Let me ask you this one then. What do you think about all this, the Pentagon saying that there's crafts that are coming from another world?
That's New World Order.
What do you think that is, though?
Getting people to believe in the fake alien invasion.
So what do those things are these people keep saying?
It's probably, who knows? The Nazis were scaring their people with UFOs. They made UFOs, and they were scaring people. It's like look at the timeline. The
Nazis
timeline.
were trying to develop some kind of an actual flying saucer,
And
right?
they were scaring people, and they were using look, we're going to save you. Look, UFOs. They were scaring them. The government's going to save you from the UFOs, right? So 1946, World War II's over. 1946-47, Operation Paperclip. That's when we took a bunch of Nazis, and Russia took a bunch of Nazis. And so 1947, Roswell. Right there. Roswell was the beginning of the UFO craze. Right after Roswell, all these comic books, Mars Attacks, in the 50s, all these shitty-ass space movies and alien movies. There was Star Trek came, but Roswell kicked it off. That was the first one that kicked it off. So wow, that's 1947. That's right when we brought in all the Nazis. Who knows, man? Maybe them Nazis were like, dude, you guys aren't scaring your people with UFOs. You dumb motherfuckers, just get on it. Boom. So that Roswell, they just take some craft, and then they get the people that they interview probably think it was real. It was a crash.
So you think it was an orchestrated crash just to freak people out?
I think
that
so.
seems like a money talk.
Oh, you
cover it up and hide it?
When anything too expensive? When is anything too expensive for the government?
But the official answer was never that it was a craft. The official answer was that it's a fucking weather balloon, and everybody believed that.
They
showed that.
But people that believe in UFOs, like myself and you, back in the day, I no longer. I have a different view of UFOs now. But back then, we didn't care that they said the fact that they said that it's just a weather balloon. We were like, oh, dude, you guys are bullshit, and you're trying to cover up the real shit.
So they're playing 3D chess.
Exactly. So that's what I think.
So you think it's drones? I'm of the opinion.
Drones, and you know how there was a little red laser point? You fuck with your cat with that shit? You go, tsh, tsh, it's incredible speeds.
Yeah, but there's some stuff. Like the Commander David Fravor one is pretty impossible.
For sure they're seeing stuff. I think Bob saw some shit. Yeah. I think they set him up. That's what I think. I think he's telling the truth, but they set him up. That's what they do. That's what William Cooper said. He was set up too. He worked for the Office of Naval Intelligence, setting up meetings, high-level meetings, and he said he thinks that he was setting up meetings and looking at documents going, oh shit, they're going to be discussing crash UFO shit and reverse engineering crash UFOs. So at first he believed it. Then eventually he realized, oh, they set him up.
So they set him up so that he'll talk about it.
He thinks they set up due to talk a lot big mouths that are drunks. That's what he thinks. They set them up and they fucking and that's what he
set them up, big mouths that are drunks because they know they're going to give out the information.
And they want them to talk.
So they get in there They let them see it. And
they go, don't go in. We'll be right
don't
back.
tell
Don't go in that
anybody.
room. We're gonna go. And then they go in. They see like Philip Corso. Remember that guy? From the Pentagon back in the day when I was into all this shit, I would like, look, dude from the Pentagon is saying it. Of course it's got to be true. Dude, a Navy pilot is saying it. Of course, they're the most credible. You're like, but now looking back, I'm like, dude, now of course it's the dude in the Pentagon. Philip Corso said, he wrote a book the day after or something. He wrote a book about how he saw the bodies in the coffins. He saw the bodies. He goes, I was there. I saw the bodies. I mean, so either he really saw alien bodies, like he walked in a room and they were in a casket and it was an open casket or something like that. Either he really saw that or he did see it and they weren't real or something and he was set up.
Imagine
they set him up.
Fucking crazy diseases would come from an alien body. Can you imagine they would just have an alien body in a room and you could do an autopsy on it with one of those stupid masks on?
Yeah.
Can you imagine? Just stop and think of that. Because think about like the Europeans that came to North America and killed 90% of the Native Americans with smallpox. Imagine what the fuck aliens have. Imagine what shit that is in there. If they're a biological creature, they probably exist like we do. We're filled with bacteria. We're filled like there's more E. coli in your gut than have ever been people ever. We're filled with this stuff. Mm-hmm. Imagine what kind of crazy diseases some alien body would have that you have no immunity to. No, and just ravages the population and everyone's dead. And these guys just have these little stupid masks on. They're cutting into this alien.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
Well, that's a good thing. That's the more sensitive you are, though, the more you have to consider all the possibilities, and that's what could keep you up.
Right, or send you down the UFO wormhole. Right.
We talked about that right before the podcast. Yeah, there's this guy that's coming on. His name's Dr. Robert Schock, and he's a geologist from Boston University, and he's worked on. There's some real scientists that believe it's entirely possible that the Sphinx and a lot of the construction in Egypt is far older than they think.
I know all about this.
Do you know all this?
I know all about the rain runoff and how much erosion has occurred around the base or around the pit and it absolutely couldn't have been done depending on like the way the Sphinx is built, where it's located, the siting.
Yeah.
Where its level is far older. So
yes, it was somewhere in the neighborhood of 9,000 plus BC, because that's when back then the Nile Valley was a rainforest and somehow or another became a desert. And this guy's legit Boston University professor, geologist. He's traveling all over the place, but he's here for some UFO conference, and the UFO people wanted him to mention the UFO conference, and I'm like, fucking Christ with UFO conferences. You guys don't have anything. If you had something, it would be, what are you going to get together in a fucking Marriott somewhere and show some blurry picture of some fucking hubcap that someone chucked up into the air? Like, there's nothing. Everything that they look at falls apart under scrutiny. There's like a few videos.
Okay, I'm going to back on
Please
this.
Please do.
Let's just say, what about, do you know the Disclosure?
Yes, Disclosure Project. Yes.
Okay, there was their first press conference when they got all the, I tend to be impressed by the military, ranking members. I'm sort of like, if you were guarding missile silos and you say you saw something hover above it and deactivate, I'm probably going to check that out a little harder. And there were just so many people that stood up, in that press conference and said that they absolutely had seen evidence, met extraterrestrials, seen the crafts, like in hangars, etc.
Yep.
And to me, they didn't look like they had that much imagination. They're the kind of people that I didn't think could really. I mean, did you find that convincing at all?
No. Here's why.
No, they're just like a whole bunch of liars, a whole line of liars.
Steve, right? The Disclosure Project
it's
is Stephen
not so much
Greer's
about
thing.
him.
Yeah.
He doesn't appeal as much as the people that he brought on, who were mostly military guys.
The thing about military, anybody who's in the military is a person. If you get 100 people together, one of them's out of their fucking mind. If you get 1 million people, you've got a shit ton of people that are out of their fucking mind that are running around that want extra attention. One of the best ways to say one of the best ways to get extra attention is to say you've had some extraordinary experience that separates you from the pack. It's one of the main points of delusion that people that are really out of their fucking mind will want to point to. I see things in people. I can read auras. I can tell. I'm a psychic healer. I'm an intuitive person. They all have this thing that separates them from the herd without any work whatsoever. I feel like a lot of these people are that. They want attention. And so they tell these extraordinary stories. Now, when you said they're not creative, that's a very astute point because they all have the same fucking story because it's the same story that's been going on forever. They just repeat shit they've already heard. Most of these people, I think, are full of shit. I think it is entirely possible that UFOs have been here, entirely possible that people have seen UFOs, entirely possible. But a lot of those people, my fucking bullshit radar just goes off. Bang, 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 bang,
Really?
bang, bang, bang. Yeah, I've talked to too many of them. When I did that television show, Joe Rogan Questions Everything, and I met with UFO people and Bigfoot people, I was telling you before the podcast, it cured me because I got to be around those people for hours and just talk to them with no cameras on. I'm like, oh, you're fucking crazy, or you're delusional, or your way of looking at things is not objective, or you're talking to me because you want to convince me of something. You're not just communicating the ideas that are actually in your head. You're pitching me some sort of a speech. You're like, you've got some sort of a performance you're doing for me.
Oh,
and I smell
okay.
it. And as a performer, I smell it. I'm like, this is nonsense. You're telling me nonsense. You know, they would tell, well, you want evidence? I'll back a truck up and show you the evidence. I'm like, where's your fucking evidence? You don't have any
should have
evidence.
brought it today. I mean, like,
Yeah,
well, here's the
exactly.
thing. Did they seem off kilter in everything else they talked about?
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
so they
everything.
did. That would be convincing.
Relationships, jobs, they're all screwballs. They're almost all screwballs. The people that are most convincing are the people that see these orbs flying around.
The pilots.
Yeah, well, the reason why they see these things is there's a real phenomenon called ball lightning. It's absolutely real, and it's caused by various weather conditions, and they think that it can even be caused sometimes by the right weather conditions and the shifting of tectonic plates, that somehow or another the
Yes.
friction. Yes, and that these ball lightning, if you've ever seen videos of it, it's phenomenal. It just flies around. They've even had it inside airplanes. Somehow or another, ball lightning has shot down the aisle of an airplane while it was in flight.
I've actually seen it.
Have you really?
I've actually
Where
seen
have you
ball
seen it?
lightning on a flight that was struck by lightning.
Whoa.
It was pink. And it sounded like a giant BB gun hit a tin can. Oh, yeah.
Whoa, you were in a plane that was hit by lightning? Holy shit. That's intense. Hello, freak bitches.
The community thing, I think, is like a key thing. there.
Yes.
I recently did a debunk of a UFO that the Chilean Navy supposedly saw.
What was that? I'm not aware of that one.
It was like this this thing. There was a Chilean Navy helicopter had this infrared camera, and they saw this two black dots off in the distance that looked like a weird thing, like a figure eight type thing flying away, and then it started like spraying out this stuff, and they couldn't figure what it was, and they chased after it, but it was too fast and it got away from them. And the Chilean government has an official UFO investigation team, and they set them on it, and they spent 2 years figuring out what it was, and they couldn't figure out what it was, and so they said it's a confirmed unidentified object. And then they published their findings, and then I and some other people on Metabunk looked at it, and we figured out it was actually just a plane flying away from the helicopter, leaving some contrails behind, and we actually figured out exactly which plane it was. And so this got a bit of play online, and there was on like Huffington Post and things like that. And some UFO enthusiasts started talking to me, and I joined their groups, and I joined a few other groups, and then I found myself in this kind of weird corner of the internet where everybody believes in UFOs unquestioningly, and they're always putting up these photographs of things, and people are like, "Oh, great capture, dude," and it's just something like a street light or something. But they think they have this confirmation bias, this group confirmation bias, where they can't disagree with someone, and they know they're in a safe space, so they can put out whatever theory that they like, and they know that people will be like, they're just very supportive of them.
Yeah.
Like one that happened a couple of days ago, some woman put up a picture of a strange light that she said was in the sky. And so I downloaded the picture and I boosted the brightness, and I saw it was actually a reflection of something in a security light on a porch, and you could see it was like there was trees behind it, and it was a security light, and there's this reflection. So I posted that, and then I started getting called like a shill for pointing this out.
Yeah.
There's a couple of people who like said, "Oh yeah, it's just this light," but other people were like, "What the heck? Why don't you believe me? Why are you like invalidating like my claims?"
Right.
And so they want to have these kind of little walled gardens where everybody believes the same thing.
That's a good way to put it. The walled gardens. It really is a good way to put it, because that is what those communities seemed like, and that's one of the things that I found when I did that television show. I still harbored a few conspiracy theories before I did that show, but doing that show for several months and constantly interviewing people who believed in outlandish things, I found the same thing over and over and over again. Illogical people with very little evidence, believing things in almost a religious way. And I found it with Bigfoot, and I found it with UFOs, and I found it with chemtrails, and I found it with, it was just one after the other in varying stages of ridiculousness. I feel like contrails and chemtrails were the most nutty people. The UFO people seem to be the most reasonable, because it's the most reasonable theory out of all of them. The idea that we have spaceships, why doesn't someone else have spaceships? There's hundreds of billions of galaxies in the known universe, hundreds of billions of planets in each galaxy. The odds of there being some sort of a life form out there is pretty high. But there's nothing. That's the craziest thing. Like, the more I talked to these people, the more I went over all their evidence, air quotes evidence, the more I ask them why they believe things. There is nothing. There's not a goddamn thing that you can put on a scale. There's not a thing that you can weigh. There's not a thing that you can measure. There's not a thing that you can look at a photo and go, wow, that's compelling. There's not one. It's just an idea. And that idea is that there's something in the sky that flies around that we, either might catch if you're there, the right place, the right time, or not, and that they're from another planet. But
yeah, if you look at what's put forward as the best evidence, it's often like
nothing.
Cases from the 60s where there's an eyewitness who said something, like there was some guy on a road who says he blacked out and his car got messed up.
It's always that.
From the 60s.
Well, that thing that I know too much about psychedelic drugs, and I know about endogenous psychedelic drugs, the brain producing this chemical called dimethyltryptamine that happens when you're sleeping. Now, they've proven that this stuff is produced in the liver and in the lungs, and they believe it's now, they've got evidence that it's produced in the pineal gland. It's a very potent psychedelic drug that your brain produces, and your brain produces it during REM sleep. So these people, they all take naps. And during these naps, they have these crazy fucking dreams. And it's entirely possible that during these dreams, what happened is they got some endogenous DMT dump. Whether they were under stress or whether they just had an erratic dump of this human neurochemical that entered into their bloodstream, whatever it is that caused it. All these fucking UFO abductions, all of them, like almost exactly happen at night. And they happen while these people are sleeping. Like, wouldn't you just assume that you were dreaming? Like, why wouldn't you assume you were dreaming?
Yeah, I used to have these kind of night terror hallucination things, which were kind of like that.
Yeah.
And it was always the same type of thing. It was like a giant spider coming down from the ceiling towards me. And I was like, frozen for a second, and then I would jump out of bed and turn on the light and like look for the spider. And it happened all the time. Like, and I knew because there was no spider that it wasn't real, but I could see if someone was having a different type of hallucination that seemed a bit more real, and then it came in between sleep cycles for them. Then totally, you can see, because it seemed completely real.
Yeah,
like I used to have them all the time, and it was always like it was horrible. It was this like giant, really realistic spider, and it wasn't like I was dreaming somewhere else. I was in the room, and I could see it. Like I was seeing something crawling across the table right here. It was this hallucination. I don't really get them anymore. I don't know what it was. My brain's fixed itself or whatever. But
it's probably a lot has to do with being young and confused, and hormones and nerves, and then also like your brain starts filling in the blanks. If you don't have a very good understanding of the universe, and your brain, your imagination runs wild. It was very confusing to me doing that television show, and it really changed me a lot. And it changed me to the point that people started accusing me of being co-opted by the government. That the government threatened my family and told me to stop talking about conspiracies. And then the idea that I wouldn't say that if that was the case. Like, you don't think I would fucking tell everybody if someone threatened my family because I was talking about UFOs? I'd be telling everybody. I'd be like, hey man. I would tell all my friends. I'd be like, dude, They fucking threatened me because I was talking about UFOs. This shit is real. Hangar 18, Area 51.
I think there was a paper a while ago published, like how many people it would take to cover up certain conspiracy theories, and the probability of none of those people ever talking.
Yeah.
And it's just ridiculous. Like, you can't have tens of millions of people in on a conspiracy about it.
What do you think happened at Roswell?
I think,
Roswell's the one. That's the big one. July 1947. I think a UFO crashed.
Yeah, I think it's what they said. It was that those balloons that they were using to detect Russian nuclear bombs in the atmosphere, and it was a secret program, so they weren't allowed to tell anybody about it. So they came in, they picked up the remains of the balloon, and then the story just took off.
That's a funny one, though. Boy, that's made a whole town famous for UFOs. If you go there now, they have like alien-themed gift shops.
They're milking it. It's like you said earlier, like people make money out of something, and then they get stuck into that. So because they're making money out of it, they're motivated to promote whatever it is, if it's Bigfoot or if it's aliens.
Have you ever seen anything in all of your years of trying to debunk these things that made you question whether or not this was a legitimate phenomena?
What, the chemtrail thing?
Anything. UFO, chemtrail.
Well, with UFOs, there's always things that you can't explain. There are things that are unidentified, but there's usually plausible explanations for them.
Right.
I like to, whenever I'm given something like a mysterious thing, I like to list all the explanations that I can think of. And maybe none of them are a perfect fits that you can guarantee this is what the explanation is. But like it being like a ghost or an alien spacecraft as an explanation is usually pretty close to the bottom. Like you start out saying, oh, it's a balloon, or it's a bird, or it's a drone, or it's CGI, or it's it's something somebody faked afterwards,
right?
Or it's an alien spacecraft, or in between that, like it's something else that we don't know what it is.
Is there any evidence, like in terms of UFOs, that's interesting?
I haven't, to be honest, I haven't really looked into the whole sphere of UFOlogy. I know a lot of people have, but just looking at the quality of the best cases they put forward, like I mentioned earlier, like some guy in 1964, got his car beat up on a road.
Right.
These are like the top 10 best cases, and this was like number 2 or something.
What about Bob Lazar? You ever looking at that guy?
Which was he like?
Bob Lazar guy supposedly worked at Area 51 and became a whistleblower.
No, I haven't. But a lot of it's something you see in the 9/11 community and in the chemtrail community is people kind of becoming celebrities.
Yeah.
And then they kind of start going on road shows, and they go to conventions and they speak, and then they write books, and then they start doing things, and they get sucked into their belief.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
The scary part,
Didn't you tell me those UFOs that they found? They were actually drones, Russian and China drones, they think. Do you know when I think you posted
David for ones they found in fucking San Diego that went from like 60 feet above the water to
drone,
60,000.
Drone.
No.
They're saying the Russian, Asian drone.
They don't even know what the propulsion system of these things is.
Well, that's what the government.
Fuckers, you're coming after us for this bullshit. You guys are doing the same shit.
If that is a drone that Commander Fravor saw, that's off the coast of San Diego, where they scrambled to go meet this thing. It was hovering over the water. It moved so fast they could barely track it.
Chinese drone.
It violated all sorts of laws of propulsion and speed.
No,
not necessarily aliens. They
It could be a drone. It could be a drone.
They don't know what the fuck it is. But here's the thing: the people that are at the front of the line of propulsion don't understand it. This is why it's confusing. The only way they'd be able to make this in secret. Scientists, the way they work is one scientist's paper influences the work of another scientist. They figure things out together. They're all in coordination.
That's cool.
Because they have to exchange information, because one guy can't be the fucking guy who lives in the middle of the mountain that's a super genius, like in Ex Machina, who makes his own people and no one else is aware.
Yes.
In the real world,
like
those scientists all work with a bunch of other scientists.
Huge
They have
projects.
to.
Yeah, huge
so there's not going to be a thing that just sneaks up on someone that's that monumental, where it just gets built.
And all of them were like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
But, Brian, am I going batshit crazy? They tell us it was
That's
drones.
what they said, yeah.
Okay.
Listen, man, that they don't understand.
When's the last time you flew a drone?
Good point. But the people that understand propulsion know that there's got to be something that makes them go. There's no heat signature.
Yeah, there's
no.
nothing.
There's
sounds
no
like a
jet
hologram.
coming out of the
You know
back.
when you have that red pointer and you
they're
play with your cat?
tracing it. They're
You know?
tracing it on radar.
Yeah, they don't know
They're
how it's
tracing it on
moving.
all these
They don't know
different.
what's
Maybe holograms have come up on radar.
All these weapon systems that they use to lock in on physical targets.
The heat doesn't even come out. Yeah, it's
Gotta be
crazy.
And it moves on radar faster than they can. And they've got video of this thing. They
What
got this,
did Elon Musk say?
infrared video.
Star Wars.
I didn't talk to him about it.
How did?
Did now that you brought it up, I feel like I fucked up.
You know he knows.
Dude, you're right. He probably has his own weirdo theater.
Or he's
probably
like,
got a
actually, I have
theory.
one of those drones, Joe.
It probably him.
And then
It's probably
brings it
fun.
here next
That's
time.
what he does instead of sleeping.
Yes.
He has to pretend he's sleeping.
Yes.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
Yeah, but I think that there's just very little that people really, the level of understanding that people have. Like, imagine the fact that we were fucking around with like nuclear bombs like 70 years ago. Like, no one even really knew what was happening. It's just like accidental, like just dropping them all the time in the ocean.
Oh yeah,
It's like fucking
the
crazy.
videos are insane.
Dude, nuts.
I showed them to a friend of mine the other night at dinner. Like, this is what it looked like. And you see the look on his face when the fucking mile-high wall of water comes out of the ocean.
Oh my God.
It's so big, it doesn't even make sense.
The best.
You're like, holy fuck.
Right now, we're talking about this Russian hypersonic missile. And like, can you believe this weapon that like Russia has? Like, I was like, wait a second. The U.S. spends like 10 to 20 times the amount of money on weapons than Russia. That we have all that shit. I mean, but the hypersonic missile. I mean, that's probably what those UFOs, quote unquote UFOs from the videos that were circulating a couple of years are just because those things are fucking crazy, man. The ramjet shit that, but it's crazy. It's like Art Bell. When we used to drive on tour back in the day, like it'd be like we'd listen to Coast to Coast at night. There's nothing else, but you could find that scary ass shit, and you'd be looking over like the, Arizona skyline, like looking for shit.
Drive in the middle of the night.
Hearing
Listen
this
to Bell, that's the best.
And like around the time that's when Art Bell's like family got kept. You're like, what the fuck is going on? And George Norrie would come on, and then they were talking about ramjets and all kinds of shit. Like, I mean, that shit. It's actually, I think the ramjets what the powers the SR-71. Like, essentially, like it takes a whole tank of fuel to get that thing just up and going, like Mach 1 or 2, whatever, and then they have to refuel it to get it like ramming, whatever. So, but like those.
So they refuel them in the sky?
Yeah, it takes a whole tank to get them where they need to go.
That's the wildest shit ever. Pumping gas in the sky.
Dude, if you see the potential of these hypersonic missiles, dude, they like without even a warhead, they have like a megaton explosion just from the velocity of the speed. They can go like Mach 15 or something,
and they can change course.
Yeah,
they can't just predict. Oh, this one's going to go to Seattle. No, it can turn left. You can go south.
You know that scene in like Superman 2 where they have the ICBM and like he's like riding it, like dude, that's fucking insane.
I think you're right. That's probably a lot of what those UFO sightings were. I think a lot of the other ones are drones, like the ones like this. The famous one is that Tic Tac one that they found off the coast of San Diego. I think in 2004, Commander David Fravor saw this object that they had tracked. They even recalibrated their device apparently to make sure that it was accurate. But they read this thing at more than 50,000 feet above sea level, and it got down to 50 feet in less than a second.
Yeah.
And they don't know what it is, and they followed it around with their jets. And then the people on the Nimitz said, yeah, we've been seeing these for a couple weeks. These like super credible naval pilots. Guys who really understand like what's possible and not possible. And they watch these things dart off and just vanish with the kind of speed that like is just impossible. No propulsion signature. It doesn't like show that like anything's coming out the back like a normal jet. It just looks like a Tic Tac, and it goes at an impossible speed. Like, what the fuck is that? That might be a drone. It might be some crazy fucking drone that they've been working on for decades, just not telling us about.
Oh, for
when I saw the Pentagon was talking about UFOs, and they were talking about things from alien worlds, I'm like, yeah, really? Or maybe you guys have been making some cool fucking shit, and you don't want everybody to know.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh yeah, it's not us. We don't have any hypersonic fucking UFO looking Tic Tacs.
Back to Phil Hartman when he does the unfrozen caveman lawyer. He's like, I'm not familiar with your modern ways, this legal system, but I do know my client's entitled to $3.5 million in punitive damages. It's like, it's alien technology. We don't know where it's
Why would the Pentagon ever tell us? Because I always wondered, like, because Tom DeLonge, he actually worked with the government. Like, they brought him in to talk about aliens because he's that much of an alien freak. And I think they thought that would help.
Dude, he told me he was like, they're cloaked. They're all above us. They're cloaked, and they're scanning. And honestly, what he was describing was like satellites tapping into all of our phones and listening to everything we do, which is, I think, actually happening.
Yeah, but they don't even satellites to do that.
No,
they get right into the system. They can listen to everything you say. That's Gavin DeBecker, who's a security expert on my podcast, was explaining. You'd used to have a clickable link. It used to be a thing you had to click, and then you would accidentally, without your knowledge, rather download some sort of a software that would take over your phone. Now they don't need that. So now they just need your phone number. They get your phone number. They're just listening to you. They're watching everything you do. They can do whatever they want now.
Dude, imagine the stupid conversations that these people have to listen to.
Yeah, well, it makes me more aware of how fucking stupid your conversations are if you think they can come up in a trial with Johnny Depp and Amber Heard.
Oh, my God.
That kind of shit, when you realize, oh, my God, everything you've ever said.
And he's now reading,
text messages and shit.
The vessel I donated my jizz to.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
Now, when you came back, and what do you do with this information? Do you report it? Do you talk to people about it?
The typical process, anytime we fly, everything gets debriefed. So because it was a two-seat airplane, usually the junior person in the jet goes down. So I was the boss, so I wasn't going down there. So we have a thing called CVIC, which is the Carrier Intel Center. So they go down. We always take our tapes because we record stuff when we're fighting. They take it down, and it's really to exercise the system when we're in training so that when we actually get over to, in this case, we were going over to the Persian Gulf, anything that we do comes in and gets debriefed, and then it all gets sent off. That's how you get the CNN video and all that. So they go down and they debrief, and they have to tell, hey, we chased this object. We don't know what it is, and of course, everyone now is going to make jokes because we know we're going to catch shit because that's how the Navy works,
Right.
And I told him, I remember telling the guy in my back seat, I said, dude, we're going to catch maximum shit for this. And he goes, yes, sir. I'll show you the comics. I have them on my phone. We do. The airplane comes out. So we know it's going to come down. So he goes in, they debrief this. Both crews go in. And of course, everyone at Intel thinks this is hilarious. So the flight, Chad comes in with his tapes, when he lands. And here's the thing. Oh, VFA 41. Haha, you guys see any UFOs out there? And he pulls out that tape and drops it on the counter. He goes, yeah, it's on here. So they're like, oh, shit. So they copy it. They play it, and there's it looks like a rack system. They put the 8mm in. It gets copied to a hard drive. And then they archive it. So you go, okay. So they got this video. And then, the ship, this spreads, if you have a rumor on the ship, 5,000 people are going to know about it within probably 30 minutes. I mean, it spreads that. It's like a virus. So the whole ship now knows that we chased this. I guarantee the whole Princeton knew this stuff was going on. And it goes all the way up. The admiral knows about it. The captain of the ship knew about it. And then all the movies, because they play movies for us on the ship, and they run like a 12-hour loop. So, of course, the movie selection is Men in Black 2, Signs, Independence Day, and we know we're going to be on the airplane comic because there's always a comic. So you do something stupid or like this, then you're going to be on the comic. I'll show you the comics here in a little bit.
Okay.
They're pretty funny. So that went on for 2 days, but, we're in the middle of workups. I got a squadron to run. So it's like, after about the first day and a half, it really died down. And then there's always that closet people that you don't think that are really like UFO buffs. And, we had one of the Marines would always come and he'd sit down. Hey, Skipper, can I sit with you? I go, you want to talk about the UFO? He goes, yeah, I can't get it out of my mind. And then we would just sit there and talk about it. And to me, it was like, weirdest thing, my entire now flying career is defined by 5 minutes of chasing this white Tic Tac vice almost 4,000 hours, flying. So
now, do you encounter anyone else that had a similar experience?
I've talked to a couple of guys from the East Coast event, the gimbal video.
Mm-hmm.
One of them I talk to daily. He's a pretty good friend of mine. Totally different now. Keep in mind, ours is 2004. The gimbal video is 2015. The funny part about the gimbal video and the East Coast stuff that was going on, because that's off the Vacape, so off the coast of the United States, they're called warning areas, and all they are is if you look on an aviation map, they're these big areas that are blocked off by blue, and they say like Whiskey 291 or Whiskey 243. And
is the gimbal video available in the same way that video is available?
Yes.
Yeah, government owned.
Okay,
Yeah.
find that, Jamie.
So, and I was talking to him about it because I actually a buddy of mine, he just retired. He was he led the fighter wing on the East Coast, and I had called him up because we start finding out that these things were so prevalent out off the East Coast of the United States, and there's a couple of them. So there's we're going to talk. What they started seeing originally was these things, and one of them an airplane almost hit one of these things, but it looks like a cube inside of a clear beach ball. So they don't know if it's actually like a surrounding or you don't know if it's a force field. And you see kind of in the gimbal video, it's got like an aura around it where ours didn't. I always laugh. I go, ours was a Tic Tac. These are not. That means there's different stuff out there that we don't know. But they had 2 airplanes flying, and we fly when we go out to train. We have a distance. We'll just say we're a mile apart. As we're flying out, so they're flying out, and the airplanes are deployed. We call it combat spread, and one of the airplanes almost hits one of these, goes close down like 50 feet down the side, and almost hits one of these floating cubes inside of the beach ball. And someone goes, "Wow, it's a balloon." It's not a balloon. I mean, these things are literally sitting still. They're no effect from the wind. So if you got 90 knots of wind and they talk about it, these things are just sitting there. So 60 or 70 people had seen it because the radars, the newer radar in the Super Hornets is extremely, extremely capable. Okay. And at first when they started seeing stuff, they were like, it's just like, maybe it's the radar just giving me a false target. And that radar really doesn't give false targets. And then someone did exactly what Chad did, is they threw their targeting flare out there, and all of a sudden when you see a heat signature or there's a return, there's obviously something out where that blip is at.
What is a targeting flare?
That's we call it the AT flare. It's an advanced targeting flare. It sits on the left side of the airplane, and it's
so you launch it like a flare?
No, it's a FLIR, forward-looking infrared receiver.
Oh,
so it's when you see the bombs blowing up on TV, and that looks like a black and white, and you see it fly. That's the targeting pod.
Okay.
It's got a laser in it. It's got an IR marker in it. It's a very capable system that syncs up to the Hornet, so everything kind of marries up. So this is the Go Fast. No, this is Go Fast.
That's not it?
No, it's the other one.
No, it's the one that looks like the...
What is that one?
That's called the Go Fast. That looks like a Tic Tac, and that was another one taken off the East Coast. But they grab it, and
bookmark that one.
It's screaming across the ocean at a very high rate of speed. And there's been some debunkers that say, well, it's really not going that fast. It's just the way the airplane is and how the mechanics of the pod are working. When you talk to the crew, because there's actually, I could ask my bud, I'm pretty sure it's the same backseater took both of these videos. Took the Go Fast video and took the gimbal video. And my buddy was on the flight with the gimbal video. But these things, so I called my bud because I'm like, hey, how many people are seeing these things? They're like 60 or 70.
60 or 70.
60 these things on radar. And I said, well, what do you do? And they said, well, we put out a NOTAM, which is a notice to airmen that just says, hey, these things are out there, so just be careful because we don't want you to hit one. Yeah.
Whoa.
And it's kind of like ours. You go, because you would ask, who do you tell? Well, everyone knows. Well, what do you do? And I said, well, because it was all white and it didn't have any markings on it and it didn't have any wings and it didn't have any rotors and it outperformed anything that we have. Yeah, I think if I would have painted China or Russia on the side.
Is this the gimbal video?
Yes.
Okay.
So it's the same pod.
Start from the beginning, Jamie?
What we're looking at. And when the crew finds it, now what you're not seeing, you're seeing the targeting. When you hear them start talking, when you listen to the video, you'll hear the guy go, dude, look, they're all over. Look at the SA page. So we have a situational awareness page, and whatever the radar is getting returns on, it'll show up. It's kind of like our God's eye view in the airplane. So the pod can only look at one thing. So he designates that as his primary target. So that's where the pod is staring. The radar is still seeing everything else. So what they're actually seeing in this video is when you see the object that he's tracking. When I was talking to one of the other pilots, he said there's actually, when you see the radar video, there's it almost looks like a formation in front of them, like 5 smaller ones that are moving in front of it, and then they turn. So like a formation, these things turns and starts going the other way, and then while they're filming the gimbal video, and that's kind of the comms when you hear, dude, holy cow, look, they're all over.
This is unreported new information that he's actually saying right now, everybody knows this video. This is the one that they say turns like the Lazar craft, like belly first. However, what he's telling you right now is something that is not public yet. He's telling you that there was a V formation of other objects that the public has yet to see.
You're not going to.
You're not going to.
It's a radar tape.
But
you're not going to.
There were more objects surrounding this, is what he's telling you right now, which is fascinating because the world doesn't know that yet. That's brand new. That's never been reported by New York Times, anybody.
Okay.
So you can go ahead and hit play. So the cool thing with this is, when he goes into, so he's in IR mode right now. You're still seeing no plume. He's looking 47, so they're actually turning into it. So it's starting to pull it back towards the nose. See how the number at the top is decreasing? And it's against the wind. Now he's in TV mode, and this thing's going to just start to roll. And you can kind of see it's got that aura around it.
Mm-hmm.
He said they were saying that the ones with the squares inside that look like the beach ball were the same. And this thing's just hanging out. So it's on the airplane's in a left-hand turn, and it's
so it
now it's
turns
right in
sideways.
front. Yeah, it's just rotating.
Now, this is how Lazar...
Yes.
Don't put that... Right. Lazar described that these things would lay flat, and then when they would travel, they would turn up on their side.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how they maneuvered. So this is very similar.
Eerily similar to the propulsion system that Lazar talked about, and that's why this video, we're seeing it very differently now, especially with what we know about Lazar. But the idea is that it would fly belly first in high speed mode. So if they have, these are gravity propelled. This is something that's known within the government. They're trying to back engineer it. They're trying to understand it. We know there's a program currently that they said is gone. However, it is currently active to study this. These things will turn belly first, these saucer type looking ones, and then that's the high speed mode because they focus allegedly, these gravity wave amplifiers. Look, this thing turns mechanically. There, again, no typical form of propulsion, as an expert is telling you. This is not a glitch. This is seen by multiple radars, multiple people. Commander Fravor was so close to it. This is something that is not aerodynamic, and it could move in ways and fashions. When he's underplaying it, when we first talked, the idea of this thing going bup, 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 it's instantaneous acceleration back and forth. There's no slowing down, no turning, like a ping pong ball. He said to me, our first talk, ping pong ball in a glass. Nothing moves like that with traditional reactionary propulsion. Somebody has technology that we don't have in our inventory at all.
So this is counterintuitive. It goes from being aerodynamic to being unaerodynamic when it goes sideways and then flies belly forward.
That's correct. It's not. It's if you talk, because I was just talking to the guy the other day, and he said the irony with this is these things would be out there for hours. We don't have, a high performance airplane does not have hours worth of gas. I mean, Hornets, if we don't have aerial refueling, and we're actually out doing a mission and fighting and going fast, you're talking hour and a half, and you're coming back to land. Some airplanes are even less, based on their size. So like an F-16 doesn't have external fuel tanks. It doesn't have a lot of gas. And the Soviet airplanes are the same way. The MiG-29 does not have a lot of gas. The Su-27, Su-30s have
because
a lot
of
gas.
weight, because of
its weight, performance,
capacity,
size of the airplane. So, even our intercontinental bombers like B-2, they still take off and they aero refuel. They keep topped off so they can get to range. That's how we extend things. You got something like this that's coming down. Just think of the physics. So I'll use my incident because that's the one I really know the best is you've got an object coming from above 80,000 feet. So I'll just tell you that 80,000, it's somewhere around 70, 80,000 feet is where you can actually start to see the curvature of the Earth. So that's considered space. So they're coming from above that. They're coming straight down. They stop at around 20,000 feet. They hang out for 3 hours, and then they go straight back up. So, and I know you had Elon on the show. So SpaceX is really excited because they can launch a rocket, and then they can have the booster come back to Earth and actually land on a pad. Very impressive engineering feat. Next to this technology, that's like a Model T next to a Porsche. I mean, it's like, wow, really? That's it? And you got something that can just at will move around. Now take it to the next level, and I know there's a lot of talk about this, so Dave's going to go into speculation mode. But when you take a shape like that, so just take the Tic Tac shape, which is shaped like a submarine. If you're using a propulsion that's non-reactive, where you're just manipulating the medium that you're in, air, whatever, you can go into the water. So when you hear all the reports of, hey, we've seen these things since World War II that would come out of the water and fly. If you have a technology like this, as long as the object is sealed where you're not going to get water inside of it, there's nothing that says you can't do that. Because all you're doing is you're not, where a jet engine sucks in air and blows it out the back, or a propeller actually pushes the water, it's a force. Now you've got something that's actually manipulating the gravity field, and it's just moving through a void.
Whoa.
Then air, you could literally, in theory, fly, go into the ocean, cruise around, pop back up, fly around, go to space. You remove the barriers of the normal propulsion that we have today.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
What is your perspective after the incident versus before the incident? Like, how much did it change the way you view the world and our place in the world?
For me, I never believed that we were alone. It's just me. I just look up and go, there's way too many stars up there for us to be
right.
in one place. After it, it makes it a little more clear to go, one, my questions are, where'd it come from? That's the biggest one. Where'd it come from? What was it doing? And then I've asked, why me? I mean, why did I happen to be, because you can say wrong place, wrong time.
Right. Or right place, right time.
Or right place, right time. For me, it was, I think there's more out there. And if I could get word out to anyone, it's like, especially the debunkers of, one, quit trying to debunk it, because it is what it is. There wasn't a system glitch. This was a real incident that happened. And number two is, let's open our aperture a little bit and start thinking outside of the box. If you go, you look at it and go, hey, it's this non-reactive propulsion. Well, it's because when we came up with propulsion, we the people long before us came up with a reactionary propulsion system, and that became our standard. Had we done something different where we developed non-reaction, we might look at something like a gasoline engine and go, holy cow, how's that thing work?
Right.
We wouldn't have that idea. So, I think there's, if you look at it and go, people thought Einstein was kind of nuts, and we're still proving his theories today. And what we're learning is that he was right. And he was right. There was a time when the Earth was flat, except for some people in California. The Earth isn't flat; it's round.
It's not just people in California; they're all over the place.
There's not an ice wall.
Right.
So when you look at that and you go, a lot of the stuff that we thought was true isn't true. It's totally been changed. So for me, I just say, I think let's get outside of the box and go, if we can develop a technology that would, and I don't look at it from a military standpoint, because it would be a game changer from a military standpoint. Technology like that would be a game changer for mankind, completely. I mean, it would literally, everything that we do, and we don't know exactly, you could, do you want that system in a car? People have trouble driving in 2 dimensions, let alone 3.
Right.
We'd be, it's kind of like your joke last night. I mean, you can't even handle the vaping thing, let alone driving a car that goes up, down, works in 3 dimensions.
Well, that was what they wanted helicopters to be. They wanted to be flying cars.
Yeah, if you get out on the road, you see how people drive. And I always laugh because people think, well, we're 3-dimensional. Like, we know that this table is not the floor, but really humans are 2-dimensional people. And you learn that, especially when we would fight. If you can really work in the 3rd dimension, which is up, and you go, well, we are 3-dimensional. I go, no, if you look at like a tall building is, 1,700 feet high, the big ones. And you go, no, for an F-18 to do a split S, which is go from up here and just do a vertical 180-degree turn, so you're going this way and you go down here. It's like 2,500 feet. And that's tight. That's a tight turn for a jet, unless you're running like vectored thrust stuff, but everything has a cost. So if you do some big Hayaka, you bleed off energy, there's a cost associated with that. That, to a pilot, that's 3 dimensions. To most people on Earth, you go, no, I look at a hill and go, I don't want to walk up that thing.
Right.
And in an airplane, it's a totally different thing. So if we just open up that expanse, for what we're trying to do for technology and go, is there another way? Because we still build suckers and blowers, which is a jet engine. Mm-hmm. We just refine the internals, the turbines, to get them to be more efficient. Where I go, why don't you just put your efforts someplace else? Like I was talking to, there's a whole realm of physics that really doesn't get explained, and it's. I was talking to Steve Justice about it. It's more into the magnetics type side that we don't we don't spend a lot of time on. And I know he said when he was working at Skunk Works, he did it's called IRAD, Internal Research and Development money, that he would fund to try and look at some of these other technologies for propulsion. And he's now since retired, but really impressive to talk to him at the level that you can, which is for us would be an unclassified level. But the stuff that goes on behind closed doors, there's reasons for it. Because if a technology like that got out where someone could rapidly reproduce it after all you've done, or they got it first. You think of the atomic bomb. Germans almost had it. We got it. Russians were working on it. We got it first. Changed the world. Literally changed the world when we detonated the first one. And you go, I'm not going to get into the politics behind it, but now we had it, and now it was the race everyone else because they had to get on equal par because it's a destabilizing thing. And now all of a sudden, if you develop a technology like this and you keep it to yourself, you've got something that no one else has, and it's a huge leap. I mean, it's a quantum leap. Do you share it because it's a mankind thing, or do you keep it for yourself? And that's right now. It's not for me to decide. I'm just Dave.
Well, it's fascinating that some other method of propulsion could have been established in some other place.
Yeah.
And that we're experiencing it, or that you've experienced it, and some other folks have experienced it in action. And I just think for us as people, as human beings in 2019, it's really easy to think that what we have now is so amazing, and that what we have now is the pinnacle of discovery, and that what we have now is, with our electricity and with our LED screens, and that we are experiencing like the height of technology. When if you're some creature from some other planet that is got easy access to element 115 and some gravity propulsion system, you're looking at us like we're digging holes in the side of a mountain to protect ourselves from the rain. We're cave people.
Yes.
Yeah.
What we here on Earth.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at like a first world, like the United States,
Sure.
or the developed nations, and then you go to some of these other and go, people are still getting their water out of a hole in the ground with a bucket.
Right, or people in the rainforest that are living these indigenous lifestyles. Yeah.
So, take them something. I mean, take them one of these flat screens down to one of these tribes that no one's ever seen and go, hey, look.
Yeah.
And start showing them pictures of themselves that you're shooting real time or video that's feeding directly
Right.
into it. They'll freak out.
They'll think it's
like,
magic.
Would you capture my soul?
Right.
So it's where are we at and what are we going to do and what can we do?
Did it change the way you look at life? I mean, even though you knew that, or you had this feeling that we were not alone just from looking at the stars, but when you actually see the thing, like how, I mean, I would imagine that has got to really shift your perspective.
I don't know if it shifted my perspective, but it was more of it's a validation.
A confirmation.
You go, yeah, I've always like, yeah, oh God, there's a lot of stars. And then you see something like this and go, well, maybe we're not. Because that pushes you to the next point to go, if one lands in my front yard, then I'll be 100% sure that we are not alone because it's sitting in my front yard. But, I mean, I got within a half mile of this thing, which is, people go, well, a half mile is pretty far away. Again, not when you're flying an airplane. Half mile is like really tight.
When they bring you have these conversations with high-level government officials, how long are these conversations?
So I've talked to 3 different groups of people.
This is post the New York Times article? So the New York Times article came in 2017.
Yes.
And then our government.
The other pilot was involved, had been to D.C. multiple times. This is how I got in touch with Lou. She had called me and said, hey, I need to talk to you. So I called her and I said, what's going on? She says, hey, has anyone called you about the Tic Tac? And I said, no. She goes, I've been to the Pentagon like a half dozen times. And they'll take me in and anywhere from Starbucks to, inside of a vault. And she goes, and they'll talk to me about the story, and then they'll show me a picture. Something goes to look like this. And then she gets pretty frustrated and goes, we call it the Tic Tac because it looked like a Tic Tac. What part don't you get? I mean, go get a thing of Tic Tacs and look at it.
When they're saying, did it look, are they showing actual crafts that they have?
No, not pictures that they have, but a video from someone else. Like they'd show the gimbal video. Hey, did it look like this?
Okay.
And it was no. So, and that's when I told her, I said, well, just tell this guy that you're talking to, just give him my name and number. I go, I'll talk to him. It's not a big deal to me. And that started. So when I got asked, multiple times to go down and talk to people, one of them was supposed to be 20 minutes, and these are important people. Getting 20 minutes of some of these folks' time is like, that's a huge deal. So we went in thinking, okay, we're going to do the thing 20 minutes, and then we're in, and an hour and a half later we came out. I mean, that's the interest of, and there were some, you get the group, the folks that come in and out, but there's a few that just sat there and were enamored by what we were saying. Like, you're joking. We're like, no, this is all real. I mean, these are pretty senior officials that are taking the time out of their day to take this serious, to go, maybe we do need to put a little emphasis on this. I mean, if something can just show up at will and do whatever it wants, and I'd probably at least pay attention.
Yeah, pay attention. What would be done? I mean, what could they do? If you put yourself in a position of one of these high-level government officials, what do you do? Just spend more money on looking at them?
I'll get money, though. I mean, I know when the article came out and they talked about the ATIP program, that Harry Reid got funded $22 million over 5 years. So it's $4.4 million a year. And you go, everyone's freaking out. Oh, it's $22 million. I go, no, it wasn't $22 million a year. It was $4.4 million. That's not even in the rounding error for the United States. We just got approved, it was $750 billion for a defense budget. $750 billion. If you took $100 million out of that, it's not even going to put a dent. And I go, why can't you? If you're only spending $4.4 million a year, and you can actually get some good work done, because you don't need a huge team, because you figure, if you look at, I think what's the number, like 10-15% of all these UFOs, like if you look at Project Blue Book, really remained unexplained. And you go, okay, so you can weed out, you can read out me flying over someone in a campfire and lighting my afterburners. So you can go, no, that was Dave being Dave. So you can weed that stuff out. Now you go, now I'm really kind of concentrating the funds. The most important thing, and I talked to the folks when we were talking, because we talked about funding, and I said, let me leave you with this. And I had got some pretty good stuff. I was talking to Chris Mellon, who's a former undersecretary and understands how the government works. So it was where he gave me some really good feedback. And I talked to him. I said, look, I'm all for you guys funding a program. But what you need to do is fund a program that there's going to be oversight over. When I say oversight, I mean, because what happens is you go, here's money, but we're going to distribute it in the government. So we're going to distribute it to these 3 different agencies across the United States government. So, I don't just call them agency A, B, and C. So you give it to them. And I'll go back to like the 9/11 stuff, where we really had the answer, but all the agencies weren't talking to each other to put all the pieces together. And that's my fear, that you go, hey, we're going to take $100 million of taxpayer money. We're going to fund a program to actually seriously investigate this stuff and look at the technology. But there are 3 different entities working on their own and not talking to each other. So there's got to be a joint collaboration to where we go, we're going to do it, but, Joe's going to be in charge. And you guys are all going to play nice in the sandbox together, because we want to get our money's worth, because people will raise the fraud, waste, and abuse flag that we're wasting money on something stupid.
You believe in UFOs?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God. Really?
Yeah.
See, I believe there's other life forms out there, but I don't think they're coming here.
They might. Here's the thing. Right. Well, why not think it? Just because here's one thing I do believe. Most people are full of shit when it comes to like most of their stories. Like it's hard to find a person that could just tell you what happened based on what they really remember. People want to jazz things up, and they want to add salt and pepper.
Yeah.
They
had
just
sex with me, did this, did that.
They don't necessarily tell you the truth. They tell you what they think is going to be an engaging story that kind of represents the truth, maybe. Especially when it's a weird thing, like you saw something in the sky. What did you really see? How long did you look at it for? How many seconds was it?
Well, I mean, the problem I have with UFOs, and I believe there are UFOs, but I don't think they're coming here.
Why would you say that?
Because that means first of all, if they're coming here, that means their technology is way more advanced than ours.
Right.
So why would they care if people saw them? They would show up, if I was an alien and I was that far ahead of us, I would land that bitch right in the middle of Times Square and be like, what? We are here.
But why would you do that?
But why wouldn't I?
Well,
why am I hiding in fields where nobody can see us?
Are you aware of how we treat uncontacted tribes?
Yes, to a point. But what I'm saying is, if you're that far advanced, they know. If they're coming here, they know. They're way smarter than us, right? Because they've traveled here,
right?
And we don't even know from far distances we can't even imagine. And they're here. They don't have to hide. It's
but
just
do you
like,
think they do it because to hide? Or do you think maybe they do it because we can't handle it? Because we can't handle it.
why would they care if we could handle that?
Because here's the problem. Whenever a civilization has ever encountered a civilization far superior to them, the results have always been catastrophic every single time. Every time Europeans have invaded North America, every time the Spanish visited the Mexicans, every time that this has happened, it's been a disaster. And this is human beings. If there was something that came down here from another planet and was so unbelievably sophisticated that it could travel through vast distances in space and had insurmountable, impossible technology, that we would look to it for all of our answers. It would become our new daddy. It would completely disrupt all of our governments. It would disrupt all of our religions. It would disrupt every single belief system we have. And people would fall apart. They wouldn't know what to do. Psychologically, it would be devastating. Look, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a psychologist, but I know most people would not be able to handle it.
I understand that. Why would they care?
Because
that's my whole point. Because they care about
because
us.
it would be affecting our culture.
But they
care.
But why would they care?
We care about animals, bro. There's a reason why we have wildlife protection agencies. We have that because we care about animals, and animals don't even know we're a thing. Okay, if you're a deer living in the forest and you're 2 years old, you might not have ever even seen a person. You don't even know what the fuck we are. But we're trying to keep those deer alive. We spend billions of dollars every year protecting them. We do that because we care about wildlife. If we cared about a rare monkey that we found in Indonesia in the forest, some strange monkey, we would do whatever we could to make sure that monkey's populations thrived. If there was a way to help them, I mean, that's one of the reasons why zoos exist. They take rare animals, they try to breed them in captivity,
but we're also share same Earth.
Well, then maybe they look at the universe that way, and maybe they look at civilization. I mean, our civilization's a very dangerous one because we're a bunch of semi-hairless monkeys with nuclear weapons. I mean, we're fucking nuts, bro.
Oh, yeah.
And we're obsessed with sex. We jack off to our phones. We're taking pills to keep our dick hard. We're all on speed. I mean,
we all have ADD.
I mean, and we lie. We lie about shit. We lie about things that people did to us. We pretend people did worse things. We pretend that we didn't do things to people. We lie about stealing. We lie about money. We lie about all kinds of things. I mean, people are
so you're
crazy.
You're thinking aliens are thinking about all that before they come down.
Of course they would. Why wouldn't they?
Because
why wouldn't they?
I guess I'm coming from a human point of view where we don't give a shit about anything.
But here's the thing, that's not we do give a shit about things. That's why when you go to the Galapagos Islands, you're not allowed to take your shoes that you walked around Los Angeles and walk around the Galapagos Island. Because people have done that and they've gotten seeds from their shoes stuck in the sand over there, in the ground over there, and then new plants grow that are invasive species. We're worried about ecosystems. We really are. That's why humans. That's where we're worried about invasive species.